Hello and welcome to Some of the Answers with Jen and Jamie. This is the official podcast of Third Eye Family Solutions, where we help you find a new perspective that will empower you to live a life of your dreams. Each week, we explore topics that are designed to help you face the challenges that come with life. We don't have all of the answers, but we do have some of them. So join us as we share our thoughts, ideas, and advice to bring your ideal self into focus. Hello, world. Welcome to 2022 and another episode of Some of the Answers podcast. So I've been noticing a few things over the last few days that I wanted to share with folks. And a lot of the conversations I've had with clients since coming back into the new year sound a lot like this. I can't even get excited about this year. It's more of the same. This is just going to be like 2020 take 3, right? We had 2020, 2021, which was take 2. Now we have 2022, which is take 3. A lot of different conversations like that where people are expressing kind of this, I don't know, like this blasé stuckness is probably the best way I can put it. So I've heard enough of that over the past 2 weeks that I really thought that that was the thing to address. So here you go. You get to hear me talk about what to do about the feeling that 2022 is just another year and there's nothing going to be great about it. And what's the point of even getting out of bed in the morning? So first of all, I have had a few clients who have come in and have said, yeah, I wanted to make a New Year's resolution, but I just really couldn't even get started. I couldn't even think about it, much less formulate something that made sense. Jamie and I actually did an entire episode. It's the very first episode of our podcast. So it's season 1, episode 1. And it was all about New Year's resolutions. And kind of the spoiler alert for that episode is, number 1, we don't think people should make them. And number 2, if you are going to create something, whether that's at the beginning of a year, beginning of a quarter, beginning of a month, or just randomly throughout your life, there are some ways to win at creating goals and making things happen. Resolving on December 31st or January 31st that you're never going to do X again, or that you're going to start doing X every day, is pretty much a recipe for failure. There was a joke going around this year because what was New Year's Eve? It was on a Friday night, I think, right? So Saturday morning was January 1st, and there was a joke going around social media that said, "Hey, if you're on board with me, you know that healthy eating doesn't have to start till Monday," right? So we already gave ourselves an out for January 1st and January 2nd. We'll start eating healthy on the 3rd because it's a Monday, and that makes more sense, right? So a lot of ways to have things that you create as intentions or goals not happen, but we talked a lot in that episode about ways to make them happen. And again, one more spoiler alert, it comes down to creating really clear goals and having community around you. Those are the 2 biggest secrets. But listen to that if you're really wanting to create something new for your year. But the thing that I've been hearing over and over again, like I said, is sort of this stuckness of why would I even bother? Why would I bother to create a goal? Why would I bother to make a resolution when this year is just going to be as mundane and stressful and not great as the last couple of years? So I'm going to invite you to do something. Here's what I'm going to invite you to do is not to create a New Year's resolution, not to create some big, huge goal for yourself, but rather to stop and go, okay, it is a new year. And look, nothing magical happens at midnight of the end of a year or at 12:01 on the first of the following year. There's really, in a very real sense, there's no magic to it, right? Every night we go to bed. Hopefully we go to bed before midnight if we have healthy sleeping habits in place or we're not having to work nights. We go to bed, we wake up in the next morning, and it's a different day than it was the day before, right? And in a very real sense, that's all that happens on New Year's Eve. And as human beings who are creatures of habit and we like tradition and ritual and all sorts of things like that, we like to put a lot of meaning into, well, it's a new year, so I got to do things differently now, right? So I'd like to invite you to do something different than a goal or a resolution, and it's instead to ask yourself a few questions. So if you want to take notes, here's the time to start writing it down, right? Because I'm going to ask you to look at 6 things that you want to experience this year. So sometime in 2020, right? Here's the first question. What do I want to see this year? Now, that's a really open-ended question. What do I even mean by that? Well, I'm going to leave that for you to really decipher for yourself because that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. For some people, it might be I have family I want to see. I have family that I haven't seen and I want to go see them. Or it could mean I want to um, go see a particular place, right? I've always wanted to go see the pyramids. I want to see the pyramids in 2022, right? But it could also be a lot more simple, like I want to see a clean, organized space when I walk into my kitchen in the morning. It could look like I want to see my name on an office door in my work. Where right now maybe I'm in a cubicle, but I want a door with my name on it. I want to see that when I walk in. It's a very wide open question. So give yourself some time and some space to really sit with that. What is it? What do I want to see? What do I want to see this year? The next one is what do I want to learn this year? And that could be, it's not quite as open ended, right? But it also could mean a lot of different things to different people. It could mean something like a particular skill that learning that would maybe advance your career, right? It could be something that you've always wanted to. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to play the drums or the guitar or the flute, right? Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to make sushi. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to ride a horse. I don't know, something you've always wanted to learn that you could put on your list of things to learn for this year. And maybe it's more of a life lesson. For some people, it might be something like, I want to learn to speak up for myself. I want to learn to hold boundaries better, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a very specific skill, but what do you want to learn this year? Next one's really specific. What do you want to taste? This could be some really fun thing like I've always wanted to, eat $100 steak at a steakhouse. I don't know. I've always wanted to try Ethiopian food. I've always wanted to, I don't know. Those are the two that comes up for me, which is kind of funny because I have had Ethiopian food before, and I actually couldn't think of one that I want to try that I haven't thought of. So I'm gonna have to do some thinking about that one for myself. But what's something you want to taste? The fourth one is what do you want to read this year? I make a book goal for myself every year, and it's not a specific book, right? So for me, my answer to this question rather, isn't, oh, I want to read this book and this book, but it is that I'm going to read 50 books this year. So, and whatever that is for you, what do you want to read? Pick something. Maybe there's a classic you've always wanted to dive into, or a childhood favorite that you'd like to reread now. Or again, it could be professional development, right? Something related to your job or career that you want to read to further skills, but something that you want to read this year. The fifth one, and could be a little triggering for some folks, and that's okay. What do you want to say this year? Now, again, that's a little open-ended, right? So I'm going to give you a little direction on this one. Although if you want to take it in another direction, it's your life. Go for it. Have fun with this, right? But really the intention here is what is it that you need to say to others that you haven't been saying? Could be as simple as some sort of practice of saying I love you more than you do, or saying I love you to people you haven't said I love you to. It might be something very, very specific, like I need to apologize to so and so for this thing that happened. It might be asking for an apology from someone. It might be communicating a boundary to someone. I don't know. It could be, it's really, really wide open, and everyone's answer to that is going to be different. But what is something that you want to say this year? I just also realized too, it could even be something you want to say to yourself. So if you are somebody who experiences a lot of negative self-talk, maybe the thing you want to say is something empowering and positive that you want to say to and about yourself? Hadn't thought of that one until just now, but it could be, right? And the last one, and this is probably the most open-ended of all in some ways, is what do you want to be this year? So I notice for myself that I am not as patient as I used to be. I used to be a lot more patient. Everybody would always, especially with my children when they were young, oh my gosh, you're so patient. It's amazing. You have so much patience with your kids, so much patience with other people's children. And I've noticed that in general in life, I'm not feeling very patient anymore. I'm actually feeling irritated and agitated a lot out in the world with other people taking too long at a red light or when the light turns green, right? Or, people in stores who are just not being respectful of other human beings. Just so many different, it's little things. It's not like I'm no longer a patient mother. I certainly could be more patient than I am. I think, I always strive to be better than I am, but um, it's not anything specific. It's like this sort of general impatience in the world. And so rather than saying, well, I'm impatient, I want to be patient, what comes up for me around this about what I want to be is I want to be accepting. And again, I'm really accepting of a lot of people and a lot of things, but out in the world, kind of just traveling around, I've found that my acceptance for others has dropped off significantly. So this year, I strive to be accepting. So those are kind of the questions to look at rather than like, oh, I want to lose 30 pounds or, I'm going to stop smoking or I'm going to eat salads every day or I'm going to, get a raise of this many dollars or whatever those kinds of things might be. Get yourself more in the world of what do you want to experience in life this year? Because the other stuff will come. If you begin, like if you learn, right? Let's take the learning. If you learn to create and hold boundaries with people this year, your life is not going to look the same this coming December as it does right now in January. You will have a different life. You might have different people around you. You might be in different relationships than you're in now. You may have a different experience at work, a different experience with your family, a different experience with your children if you're a parent, a different experience with your spouse if you're a spouse. I don't know, right? But learning to create and hold boundaries for anyone is going to make a significant difference in the way the rest of the world around you looks. Um, so, if you take these things on, right? What do you want to see? What do you want to learn? What do you want to taste? What do you want to read? What do you want to say? And what do you want to be? If you took all those things on, you would have a lot to play around with for the year. And some of them might be really simple, right? You may say taste. Okay, well, I've never tasted Ethiopian food. I'm going to make a reservation at a restaurant or I'm going to order some on DoorDash. And by the way, I'm not in any way endorsing DoorDash. Okay, just to make that clear, but you get the point, right? Um, so you could get that done this week if you have the means to do so, and you can kind of check that one off the list. Some of the other ones might be a lot harder, right? Especially the being, because the being can lead you through the whole year. So one way to kind of start, so if you make this list, right, if you do this work and do this thinking and you have this list, I'm going to suggest two things. One is that you put them somewhere visible in your home or your office, wherever that is for you that you're going to see it the most. So put it on the refrigerator. I want to see this. I want to taste this. I want to say this. I want to be this. Put it on the mirror in the bathroom. I don't know, wherever it is that you're going to see it, right? And if you've listened to this podcast before, you'll know that we often are encouraging visual reminders. But if you do this work now and then tuck it in a notebook and forget about it until December, none of it's going to happen. So put something somewhere that's going to remind you that this is the life you want to create for yourself. And then secondly, you can look at these things and break down some of it into specific goals. And again, I would encourage you to listen to that first episode because we talk a lot about specific measurable goals in that. But if what you want to see, for example, is the Great Pyramids, but you're like, okay, but I don't have any money to go on vacation. Great, that's a good place to start. How are you going to get that? How are you going to make that happen? And it might be a goal of, saving up a certain amount of money over the next 6 weeks or 3 months. It might be a goal of, just finding, maybe you already have the financial means, but you don't know what it takes to get to Egypt. And so you have to look up travel plans, right? Find out what are the current travel restrictions of traveling to Egypt and back, given COVID's still a thing. You can set little goals inside the bigger things for those things that are big. And when it comes to being, so for example, with acceptance, that's not going to just come because I said I want to be accepting, right? I'm going to have to take actions. I'm going to have awareness around, am I being accepting or am I being judgmental? Am I being impatient? How am I being in this moment? And so one of the things I did was I set for myself, I have an app, a mindfulness app that I listen to every morning. And one of the first things it does for every exercise is it says to set an intention for the exercise. And in the languaging of that intention, I include something about acceptance. So if the exercise like this morning was about tuning into your senses and using your senses as mindfulness and awareness, I included the words accepting all of my experiences during this practice. Sometimes it's about other people, right? And I've created, and again, we're only 12 days into the year, right? But in some of those intentions, I've said things like, I will be accepting of all who cross my path today. Now, do you think I was successful? Absolutely not. Was I more successful than I would have been had I not created that intention? I'm pretty sure I would have been. So it's just something to play with, a little way to maybe get some motivation, some oomph, some drive going in this new year that we're in. And yeah, 2022 is not going to be like 2021 simply because you're a different person than you were a year ago. Even if you feel really stuck, there are things about you in your life that are not the same. So we just encourage you to keep growing, keep thinking, and use this as a way to grow and expand throughout your year. Have a great couple of weeks, and we'll be back with you soon.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Some of the Answers. To learn more about Jen, Jamie, or Third Eye Family Solutions, log on to thirdeyefamilysolutions.com. That's third, THIRDIEYE, familysolutions.com. Some of the Answers podcast can be found on Spotify, iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, and Podbean. This podcast is the property of Third Eye Family Solutions, copyright 2020, and the music is owned fully by Gabe Schwartz. Join us next time for Some of the Answers.